In the lush, mountainous region of northern Thailand, a group of young boys, part of a local football team called the Wild Boars, hatched an exciting plan to celebrate a teammate's birthday. The team, consisting of 12 boys aged 11 to 16, and their 25-year-old coach, Ekkapol Chantawong, decided to embark on a secret adventure into the Tham Luang Nang Non Cave, a sprawling underground labyrinth nestled amidst towering limestone peaks. Stretching 10 kilometers long and plunging 85 meters deep, the cave was a natural wonder, both beautiful and intimidating. The boys, thrilled by the idea of exploring its dark tunnels, chose not to tell their parents, believing it would be a quick, fun outing after football practice. What began as a joyful escapade on June 23, 2018, would soon spiral into one of the most harrowing survival stories in modern history, gripping the world with its intensity and drama. The Tham Luang Cave, located in Chiang Rai Province, was no ordinary destination. Its vast network of chambers and passages, carved over centuries by water and time, made it a local legend. The boys had visited the cave before, but only near its entrance, never venturing deep inside. On that fateful Saturday, they parked their bicycles at the cave's mouth, leaving their backpacks and shoes behind, and stepped into the cool, damp darkness. Their laughter echoed off the walls as they moved deeper, flashlights cutting through the shadows. They had no way of knowing that a sudden, unseasonal rainstorm was brewing outside, one that would change their lives forever. As the boys explored, heavy rain began to fall, unnoticed by the group far inside the cave. The boys, engrossed in their adventure, were oblivious to the danger. Meanwhile, their parents, expecting them home after football practice, grew uneasy as hours passed with no word. Phone calls went unanswered. There was no cell signal deep inside the cave. By evening, panic set in. A group of parents drove to the football field, only to find it empty. Their search led them to the Tham Luang Cave, where they discovered the boys' bikes and belongings at the entrance. Local authorities were alerted, and a search party quickly formed. Rescuers arrived at the cave, their flashlights piercing the darkness as they waded into the rising water. The situation was dire. By 1 a.m., the water level had risen so high that it reached the cave's ceiling in some areas, forcing the team to retreat. The reality was grim. If the boys and their coach were still alive, they would have to survive the night alone, trapped in the flooded cave. The Tham Luang Cave was a complex maze, with some passages plunging deep into the earth and others rising to higher ground. Experts studied the cave's map, hoping the boys had found a dry spot. The rescuers, along with the boys' families, faced a torturous wait, haunted by the question of whether the group could still be alive. By the morning of June 24th, 24 hours after the boys had entered the cave, hope was fading. The group had brought no food or water, and the lack of oxygen in the flooded cave was a growing concern. The Thai government mobilized its Navy SEALs, a unit trained for underwater missions, to lead the rescue. The SEALs, though skilled in open water operations, had little experience with cave diving. The SEALs prepared for the mission, equipping themselves with oxygen tanks and diving gear. They entered the water, leaving a red rope behind to mark their path, a critical lifeline for their return. The water was so cloudy that visibility was nearly zero. The divers could not see their own hands in front of their faces. The cave's jagged walls and narrow passages added to the danger, threatening to snag their equipment or trap them. 2 days into the search, the divers reached a dry section of the cave. Their hearts sank as they scanned the area. No boys, no signs of life. The absence of bodies was a small relief, suggesting the group might be deeper inside, but it also meant the search would grow even more perilous. The SEALs, unaccustomed to cave rescues, moved cautiously, aware that a single mistake could be fatal. Outside, the rescue operation expanded. A base camp was established at the cave's entrance, with tents, generators, and supplies. 4 days after the boys went missing, the operation was still stalled. The water level remained high, and the divers had made little progress. The Thai authorities, under immense pressure, called in a team of British cave divers, led by John Valanthan and Rick Stanton, who were among the world's foremost experts in cave rescues. The British team assessed the situation and devised a plan to accelerate the drainage of the cave. Initially, water was being pumped out only from the entrance, but the team identified a second entry point higher up the mountain. By pumping from both locations, they managed to lower the water level significantly. On July 2nd, the 10th day of the ordeal, the British divers set out from Chamber 3, determined to reach Pattaya Beach. They swam for hours through the cold, murky water, their oxygen tanks strapped tightly to their backs. The journey was grueling, with some passages so narrow they had to remove their tanks to squeeze through. When they finally reached Pattaya Beach, their hopes were crushed. The ledge was empty, submerged by the floodwaters. Exhausted and low on oxygen, the divers faced a critical decision: turn back or push deeper into the cave. The boys and their coach, weak and hungry, were alive. They had survived 10 days in complete darkness, with no food and only the clean water dripping from the cave's stalactites to sustain them. The moment was a miracle, a beacon of hope after days of despair. Valanthan radioed the news to the surface, and the base camp erupted in cheers. The boys' survival was nothing short of extraordinary, and much of the credit went to their coach, Ekkapol, a former monk with a calm and steady presence. When the water began to rise, he had led the boys to higher ground, navigating the dark, slippery passages to find a safe spot. A Thai army doctor was sent into the cave to assess the boys' condition. They were malnourished and had minor cuts and bruises from scrambling through the cave, but they were remarkably resilient. The doctor provided first aid and delivered food and blankets, which the boys received with gratitude. Outside, the authorities faced a daunting task: how to extract 13 young boys, none of whom could swim, from a flooded cave through kilometers of treacherous underwater passages. The options were limited, and each carried significant risks. One plan involved drilling an escape shaft from the top of the mountain to reach the boys' chamber. Helicopters airlifted heavy drilling equipment to the site, and engineers began boring into the rock. However, the process was slow and uncertain. The limestone was hard, and the cave's precise location was difficult to pinpoint. Experts estimated it could take a month to complete the shaft, a timeline that was untenable given the boys' weakening condition and the looming threat of more rain. The cave's oxygen level was another pressing concern. To address the oxygen crisis, Thai Navy SEALs undertook the dangerous task of transporting oxygen cylinders through the flooded cave. Divers carried the heavy tanks one by one, swimming through the same narrow, murky passages where the boys were trapped. Saman Kunan, a retired SEAL volunteering for the mission, lost consciousness underwater while delivering oxygen tanks. Saman, a hero who had risked everything to save the boys, was gone. The loss of Saman Kunan intensified the pressure on the authorities. The original plan to keep the boys in the cave until the monsoon season ended, potentially 2 months later, was no longer viable. A weather forecast delivered a chilling warning. Another massive storm was expected to hit northern Thailand within days. After intense deliberation, the rescue team devised a bold and controversial plan. Dr. Richard Harris, an Australian anesthesiologist and experienced cave diver, proposed sedating the boys to prevent panic during the underwater journey. The sedation would not put them to sleep, but would dull their fear and keep them calm. Each boy would wear a full face mask connected to an oxygen tank, allowing them to breathe underwater. On July 8, 2018, the 16th day of the ordeal, the rescue began. Dr. Harris entered the cave and administered the sedation to the first boy. The boy, groggy but conscious, was fitted with a mask and handed to a diver. Over the next 2 days, the divers repeated the process, bringing out the remaining boys and their coach. Each rescue was a nerve-wracking ordeal, with the entire world watching. The boys' parents, gathered at the cave's entrance, held their breath with every update. When the final boy emerged on July 10th, the 18th day, the camp erupted in celebration. A statue was erected at the Tam Luang cave to honor Saman Kunan, whose sacrifice had helped make the rescue possible. The story of the Thai cave rescue became a global phenomenon, inspiring books, documentaries, and films. The boys, once frightened children trapped in darkness, returned to their families, their lives forever changed by the ordeal. The world, too, was changed, reminded of the power of hope, resilience, and the unbreakable human spirit. If this incredible story moved you, please like and subscribe to Voyage Vault for more gripping tales of courage and survival.